Hi guys, hope you're all well. Today I'm speaking to Lydia about her experiences with epilepsy. Do you mind talking about epilepsy in general, I guess? When did you first get diagnosed, or were you born with it?
I had my first diagnosis of epilepsy when I was at school, when I was about 13, but that was just with petit mal. So my family noticed I was having quite long absences. Spoke to the doctor and eventually I got diagnosed with petit mal, but I didn't have any grand mal seizures at all whilst I was at school. And then around sort of 20, I hadn't had any for a long, long time, so they took me off the medication. I was absolutely fine for 7 years, and then at 27 I had my first grand mal seizure, and obviously got re-diagnosed with grand mal seizures and epilepsy again, so back onto the medication.
Okay. So since then, how many seizures do you get?
It's varied quite a lot. I was having quite a lot to start with, and it's got worse depending on what medications they've put me on. Through the worst period, I was sometimes having 10 a week, and that was made even worse when they tried me on Keppra for a while, and then I got really, really ill and tried me on all different combinations. So I actually preferred being on Lamictal and actually asked to be put back on that, which I'm on now. And on average, I was generally having one a month now, which I can live with, I guess. I don't want to take more and more medication just for the sake of one a month, which generally hasn't impacted too much at the moment.
Interesting that you're on Keppra and now on Lamictal, because I was actually also put on Lamictal straight away, and then went on to Keppra, and it didn't suit me either,
No.
and then was put back onto Lamictal. I was put on Keppra because I was starting to get a rash, which they thought was Stephen Johnson syndrome, I think, which can be really, can sometimes be fatal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just wasn't worth it. And being on Keppra, I was quite moody.
Yeah.
I had to go in and see the specialist nurse with my boyfriend at the time and my family and stuff, and go through, she was asking them what I was like.
Yeah.
And they were just yeah, she's really bad to deal with at the moment.
Yeah.
So that was quite horrible to hear as well. So yeah, and then was put on the Lamictal again, and has been fine since. Well, not fine, but generally much better.
No side effects?
Yeah, so have you had any side effects from medicine?
Not from Lamictal that I can think of. Keppra was awful again. I was not particularly pleasant. I don't think I was very snappy. I was very aggressive. I was a bit emotional. And I used to have really bad headaches. Couldn't remember anything. Still can't remember that period of my life very much. And just was completely zonked out. I wasn't communicating. People would try and talk to me and just met with blankness, just one answer to their questions, yes, no, and wouldn't have a conversation with them. And it actually increased the amount of seizures I was having a day, which wasn't good.
It defeats the object, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what are your seizures like now?
Generally, I'm quite lucky now in that most of them are first thing in the morning whilst I'm in bed, so my husband's there with me. He knows how to control them. They're usually quite small and I can usually recover quite quickly from them. I do still have the odd one out and about, but the big percentage of them are first thing in the morning. And touch wood, I haven't had any major accidents, which I have had in the past through them, so I'd much rather keep it that way.
That's really good. So you're married,
yes,
which is great. Do you think that it's hard for some people with epilepsy to start relationships?
I think it depends on the person. I knew my husband through one of my best friends for a long, long time, but not very well. When we first started going out, I was going through the worst period of my epilepsy where I was having the most seizures. I had 2 major accidents during the first few months of us being together, and if anything, that made me realise how close we were, because he was an absolute rock throughout it all, very supportive, and it didn't seem to put him off. in any way. So if anything, those first few months were the worst I've been through, but the best in a way, because I saw that I had somebody there who was fully supportive of it.
Yeah. Do you think that it might have been related to the fact that you were... Because I actually found that when I first met my boyfriend, I was actually going through a really bad time as well. And I don't know whether that was because, it sounds stupid, but like going on dates and things, I was almost more nervous. And I think sometimes it made me feel a bit rough, and then I was worried that I might have a seizure where I wouldn't have been before.
Possibly not. I mean, I think just generally in my life there was lots going on with my work and all different things going on in my life, and I think it was also that it was a time where they were trying out all different combinations of medications and things, and I don't think I reacted well to that. So I don't know. I mean, as soon as we started going out, I was probably a lot calmer. So, and he then experienced quite a lot. So possibly not.
Do you think it would have been quite helpful for you if there had been more information out there when you had your first grand mal at age 27?
I definitely think the information that's out there makes it sound even more scary than it is, to be quite honest, and the assumption and the general knowledge of epilepsy when you find out you've got it is a bit, gosh, my life's almost going to be over, so to speak. I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm not going to be able to do that. And the reality is, you know, can pretty much, you know, bar some of the extreme sports and things, you can do most things in life. And I think you should be given a more positive viewpoint rather than the first things you're being told is all the things you can't do and all the ways your life's going to be impacted and all of the things you need to take into account. And I think as long as you're sensible, then you can do a lot of things that they possibly maybe even not advise you to do. But the main thing is to keep positive and carry on with your life as much as you can, else it will impact on your life quite substantially in a bad way, and I can imagine make you feel quite negative about life in general. So maybe just a bit more of a positive slant on things and not all doom and gloom.
Do you think that epilepsy is misrepresented in the media at all?
Don't think there's that much out there in the media, to be quite honest, from what I've seen anyway. I mean, the only thing I've seen recently is the stuff about Katie Hopkins having her operation, but even with that there wasn't much information as such about epilepsy. On a personal note, I think there's not really any coverage of epilepsy out there. You see a lot about other illnesses, but generally not much about epilepsy, and I think that's why in general there's not much knowledge out there, and there's more of a fear of it than there possibly should be.